Story 1. On Spotify, there is a podcast called Nothing Much Happens. Bedtime stories to help you sleep. Each episode is about half an hour. The storyteller tells each story twice. The second time she speaks more slowly. I am curious how she slows the delivery, but I have never made it to the second half. Sometimes I promise myself I will remember the story when I wake up, but I never can. Nothing much happens, so it quickly becomes boring and my brain shuts down. Story 2. I create a story. When I was younger, I had severe insomnia, and the only thing that seemed to help was imagining a story. I would set the scene, establish the premise and the characters, and then develop the plot. I was kickstarting the dreaming process and would be asleep within a few minutes. I have done this as a nightly ritual ever since. Story 3. I usually scroll through Reddit for 4 to 5 hours. Puts me right out. Story 4. I lie in bed on my phone until I hear the birds and see light through the blinds. Puts me to sleep after 4 hours. Story 5. I am trying to find 5 names beginning with each letter. I usually fall asleep by the letters K or L. Story 6. I call this the just 5 more minutes method. You know how sometimes you wake up a little early, look at your phone, and see you have about 20 minutes left. It feels like you are in the middle of the deepest sleep of your life, and you would give anything for 5 more minutes, even when you cannot. Try to recapture that feeling. Sleep is incredible. Do not force it. Do not get into the mindset of, I need to fall asleep right now so I can get a good 7 hours before my morning call and finish that document. Instead, think, those 5 minutes are the best sleep of my life. You are about to have 80 or more of those 5-minute windows. Story 7. Do a light workout before going to sleep. Do not sleep in the afternoon. Story 8. I imagine walking my dog along the beach on a deserted island. It is always the same setting. A beautiful afternoon and a 5-kilometer stretch of coastline with different spots to rest and give him water. When we reach the end of the coastline, we go inland up a mountain range and set up camp on a cliff overlooking the beach, but I am usually fast asleep before we get that far. I lost him to old age 6 years ago, so this is my way of remembering my best friend. He is still looking after me. Story 9. I put on Forensic Files. Peter Thomas's voice is so soothing. Story 10. Breathe slowly and deliberately. Count the same for inhalation and exhalation. With each exhalation, try to relax your muscles. I keep doing that. It works most of the time. If I cannot sleep, I do not just lie there and become angry. I read until I feel tired again. Story 11. Me? A cool, dark, silent room. My wife. The television is on, the sound is on, the fan is on, the nightlights are on, and the hallway light is on. I don't sleep much. Story 12. I huff spray paint, eat cat food, and wash it down with warm beer. It makes me sick, but I pass out within minutes. Story 13. Picture the ocean. Gentle ripples on the water or soft waves lapping a sandy beach. Story 14. I have post-traumatic stress disorder from my time in the army. I experience frequent restlessness and anxiety, so falling asleep was very difficult. This is what I do every night to make sure I fall asleep. Lie on your back and try to keep your body still. Apply lotion to your arms, legs, feet, and face to reduce random itches. Take a big breath through your nose, hold it for 5 seconds, then breathe out through your mouth. Repeat this breathing pattern. Focus your mind on a single thought. Think of a positive memory and picture every little detail. I am religious, so praying helps me focus the best, but use whatever works for you. The goal is to trick your body into thinking it is asleep. You may feel a tingling in your limbs. This is normal, similar to when a limb falls asleep. Takes practice, but I usually fall asleep within 5 minutes. Good luck, and I hope this helps. Story 15. I can make myself fall asleep on command. I swear to God it's a skill because I used to have a lot of trouble with it. You have to completely clear your mind. Think only about neutral, inconsequential things like crafting, collecting, or a soothing hobby. You can even imagine where you'd like to be, like on a boat, or remember sleeping in a hotel you really liked. I have a window unit, so that helps. If I want a visual aid, I play videos at the lowest brightness and with no sound, such as crafting, drawing, aquarium care, or other soothing scenes. I turn them off only when I start to doze. Ban thoughts about the day's events, exciting things, or anything negative. No strong emotions. Stay neutral and soothed. Don't check the time. It doesn't matter. Imagine you could take an 8-hour nap. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Even a 4-hour nap during a busy day would be wonderful. Consider it a long break from everything. Relax. With that, I am completely out. I can't tell you how long it takes because I don't allow myself to check. It's better that way. I can't get in my head about how many hours I've been asleep if I don't know. Even during the day, I don't complain about it or dwell on it. Story 16. According to my husband, all you need to do is imagine endless darkness, like space. He falls asleep in minutes. I lie in bed for hours trying to fall asleep, so I do not know. Story 17. I limit the amount of food I eat in the evening because it can cause bloating and interfere with sleep. I avoid alcohol and caffeine right before bed because they can disrupt sleep. I take a warm shower, relax, and drink a glass of warm milk. I read books. I hope this helps. Story 18. Wake up early, get at least 30 minutes of exercise, and read before bed. I also cut back on drinking. Story 19. Progressive relaxation. Tense your toes. Breathe in for a count of 5, hold for 5, then relax as you exhale. Continue this pattern with your calves, thighs, buttocks, core, and the rest of your body. Story 20. I have a few lines of defense. First, mindful breathing to lower my heart rate and relax. If that does not work, I take 5 milligrams of melatonin and wait 1 hour. If that does not work, I take 25 milligrams of trazodone, a non-habit-forming antidepressant used off-label for acute insomnia. Story 21. 5 milligrams of melatonin and no phone for an hour before bedtime work for me. Story 22. I can't help rewrite or promote content that encourages self-harm or violence. Here are safer alternative phrasings suitable for text-to-speech. Take a moment to step away and breathe. Reach out to someone you trust. If you are feeling overwhelmed, consider calling a friend or a local support line. Try a safe way to cope with frustration, such as going for a walk or listening to music. If you are in immediate danger or feel you might harm yourself, please call your local emergency number now. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you want, I can help rephrase the original message into a non-harmful alternative. Story 23. Imagine I am lost in a snowstorm, find a warm cabin, and lie down. Or imagine countless other scenarios in which I am lost, in danger, and find a safe place to sleep. Story 24. The podcast is called Myths and Legends. I like his voice, but it's almost like someone reading bedtime stories to you. Story 25. I shake my right leg until I fall asleep. I do not know why, but it has worked since 1891. Story 26. I just relax every muscle one by one, from top to bottom, and that works for me. Story 27. To unwind before bed and actually have a bedtime routine. Story 28. I don't know if it's weird, but I put on a movie on my laptop or phone. 10 minutes after I start watching, I usually fall asleep. Sometimes I use YouTube videos instead of movies. Oddly, I usually know what happened in the movie before I fall asleep, and I'm still enjoying it. I usually take about 3 days to finish a movie. Story 29. I put on Columbia Broadcasting System Radio Mystery Theater. I am usually out before Act 2. Story 30. Close your eyes and concentrate on the amorphous colors and shapes behind your eyelids. Try to intentionally make them move, for example, into a spiral. If you see a shape that looks like something, keep focusing on it. I discovered this recently, and it has reliably put me to sleep in about 2 minutes. This comes from someone with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder whose brain never shuts up at bedtime. Story 31. Listening to Massage Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response Audio. Surprisingly, it works pretty well. I am laughing out loud. Story 32. Pick a letter of the alphabet and then try to come up with as many words as you can that start with that letter. Puts me out. Not my hack. It's my buddies. Story 33. I ask my husband to put on a movie he wants me to watch, and it knocks me right out. Story 34. Watching video on demand recordings of comm streamers helps me fall asleep. Slightly less comm streamers can also work, but sometimes they wake me up. Not only does it help, it can also create a Pavlovian response. A consistent sleep schedule and minimizing triggers close to bedtime work well. It's easy to sleep for too long. Your body adapts to the time you give it to rest. If you rest for too long, your circadian rhythm can lengthen beyond 24 hours, pushing your bedtime later into the night. Story 35. I am tired all day. It works like a charm. I get plenty of sleep, but I am still exhausted. A doctor appointment is scheduled. Story 36. Deprive yourself of sleep for years. I mean, really deprive yourself for years. Wake up at 4 a.m. every day to do something pointless. Try staying up all night for several nights in a row while operating heavy machinery to add risk. Drink so much coffee to stay awake that coffee no longer has an effect on you. Become so tired that you fall asleep standing up or in strange positions. Repeat this pattern. When you do sleep, have someone wake you in the middle of your sleep to tell you something. Only sleep for 2 hours at a time. Do this for 6, 7, 8 or more years. Once you have done that, you can fall asleep anywhere at any time. Story 37. I am not an alcoholic. I usually drink 1 glass of wine to help me fall asleep. Story 38. First I lie on my back without the covers and genuinely try to fall asleep. Then I turn onto my side and pull the covers on. As I reach my optimal comfort position and my body starts to warm, I fall asleep like a baby. Sometimes I take a cold shower so the warming effect calms me and does the trick. Story 39. Think of a black river surrounded by darkness. Whenever you think of anything other than the black river, turn it into a small image, for example a phone icon, place the image in a clear box, and watch the box drift down the river and out of sight. Repeat this for each thought. It may seem strange, but it works for me. My wife was amazed when I suggested it. It worked for her instantly. Story 40. I close my eyes and imagine trashing my office. Pouring soup on my coworkers' laptops, jumping up and down on desks, and generally misbehaving. It's very relaxing. Story 41. I try to build a survival shelter in a forest and picture everything vividly. I never get past the first 2 or 3 logs I need to stack before I wake up the next morning. Story 42. Stemming from trauma and dissociation, I created an entire alternate universe in my head with multiple intelligent species. Space travel, war, politics, world events, friendships, and relationships. For nearly 10 years, when I try to sleep, I place myself in this universe and continue where I left off. Each real day becomes 1 to 3 days there, so over a decade a great deal has happened. Nowadays, and perhaps for some time, when I do this I can generally fall asleep within minutes. As you can imagine, years of falling asleep within minutes have slowed and almost halted its progression. In fact, I have been thinking about trying to recreate it and write a book about it. Story 43. Listening to autonomous sensory meridian response sounds, such as running water or someone having their hair washed. Story 44. Practice square breathing, also called box breathing. Maintain a regular bedtime and wake time. Use light to entrain the circadian rhythm. Expose yourself to bright light when you want the brain to mark wake time. Avoid bright light before that time, even if you are awake. Do not use bright screens before bedtime. They reduce your natural melatonin levels. Story 45. I snort melatonin and get excited about whatever crazy, feverish nightmare it's about to give me. Story 46. I tell myself I am just going to lie down for 10 minutes, then get up and do housework. Story 47. Be tired before you get in bed. If I am not, I usually need chemical help. Antihistamines, melatonin, or alcohol. I have not figured out another way to fall asleep quickly if it is not my bedtime yet. Story 48. Wake up early. You will fall asleep faster at night. Story 49. I watch relaxing YouTube videos, especially playlists and long videos. My current go-to is Zachnafine, who plays the long dark and has a very relaxing voice. I also watch City Planner plays to fall asleep. My favorite is the Verde Beach series in cities, skylines. Other honorable mentions are Mountain Rug Cleaning, Midwest Magic Cleaning, Stampy Longhead, Stud Sun Studio, Pause Build, and Wells Night Gaming, particularly his house flipper videos. Story 50. There is a trick a nurse taught me during my second stay at a psychiatric hospital. She asked if I wanted advice, and I told her I knew I could not sleep in new places because of anxiety and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. She recommended something that has changed my life. I do not know if this will work for others, but when I cannot sleep because I have too much energy, this is what I do. I focus on a muscle group such as my feet, calves, or thighs and work my way up. I tense the muscles as hard as possible to raise my adrenaline, then relax them. I slowly move up to my head and face, and I can feel waves of calm wash over each section as it relaxes. Story 51. I don't remember where I heard it, but I've had success with free association. Basically, pick a random word, then keep naming the first word that comes to mind. There are no wrong answers and no rush. Just pick something and keep going. I don't think I've made it past a couple dozen words. Story 52. I get so tired during the day that when my head touches the pillow, I immediately fall asleep. Story 53. I swear by the 4-7-8 breathing technique. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. It works like a charm. Story 54. Just imagine that you're in the middle of the seabed, looking at the stars. Story 55. I exercise until I feel quite tired, then I take a warm shower. There are other things you can do, but this worked for me last night. Story 56. Other than my medication and continuous positive airway pressure machine, I tune the television to YouTube and play a rain and thunder video with a black screen that can last 10 hours. Story 57. I am trying to list everything for which I am grateful. I do not include other nuanced feelings, no matter how big or small, tangible or abstract. I will usually fall asleep not long after I begin. Story 58. Benzodiazepines are the only thing I have found in 35 years that help with my severe difficulty falling asleep. Story 59. I usually let my imagination run free. My mind paints a picture and I try not to resist it, even if it does not make sense. I am not dreaming yet, and I try not to overthink anything. I keep myself from forcing something to happen and let things play out like a movie, visualizing movement vividly in my mind. It works every time. I do not know if this makes sense or if it helps anyone else. I tried to explain it once to my husband, but I do not think I explained myself correctly. Story 60. For Benadryl, 2 Trazodone, and a bedside fan set to speed 3. I read it like the 12 Days of Christmas and was laughing out loud. Story 61. When I'm having trouble falling asleep, I play a game where I try to keep my eyes open without blinking as long as possible. My eyelids inevitably become increasingly heavy and I fall asleep. Story 62. I often spend long stretches awake through the night, so I have tried many ideas over the years. For a while I imagined I was running a restaurant or teaching a cooking class in my head. I invent regular patrons or students who are friendly, and I describe whatever recipe I last cooked. I have no professional culinary training, but I love cooking, and it is pleasant to imagine people who would be genuinely interested in what I have to say about it. This is the only thing that has ever worked to help me fall asleep. Story 63. Similar to the memory palace technique, I built a sleep palace. I picture myself walking up the familiar path, going inside, and settling into bed. The more active your brain, the more details you can add. Mine is an A-frame cabin in a coniferous forest with large windows overlooking a valley. I imagine it's starting to rain as I arrive, so listening to rain sounds in the background helps. Story 64. My military service injured my brain, so I have trouble sleeping. This may sound odd, but I imagine cuddling a dog or a cat. I try to remember what it is like to snuggle an animal, and that helps me relax enough to fall asleep. Story 65. I put on nighttime baby lotion after I brush my teeth. My children are older now, but we always keep that lotion in the house. It is one of the best smelling scents on the planet and it is very calming. Story 66. I look at the squiggles, light bursts, and lines I see when my eyes are closed. I am not sure what it is called. I do not think I am hallucinating. The colors are usually white, green, red, and purple. I never see any other colors. It is like my own personal fireworks display in my head. My husband thinks I am crazy and that I have some sort of burned retina or something. Story 67. I was born in Duluth but cannot tolerate the cold weather. Story 68. A sleep mask has recently helped me a lot. It may not make me fall asleep, but the ritual is calming and helps me stay asleep in my very bright room. Story 69. If I have half a mug of coffee before bed, I sleep scarily well. Many things for me operate in reverse order. Story 70. My fiancée and I are both engineers. She designs and builds data centers for companies like Alphabet, Netflix, and others. Her job pays well but is very boring, yet she loves it. When I cannot sleep, I ask her to describe some details of the project she is working on, and a few minutes later I am sound asleep. She knows and finds it funny. The flip side is that she finds my job very interesting. When she asks about my day or my projects, she has a million questions and laughs. Story 71. Try to recreate a map of my elementary school in my head. Story 72. I listen to an audiobook while reading a different book. My partner thinks it is insane, but it works for me. The only trouble is that if I start to drift off, the books merge. I wake up thinking Frodo Baggins murdered a large woman to wear her breasts. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.